The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Dylan J. Schlender presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Schlender.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Tampopo, a 1985 comedy film from Japan that features a trucker and his friends trying to help a noodle shop owner revitalize her business. All the while, the story is sprinkled with vignettes about the intersection of food and life. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Big Ben Haslar, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. It gives me no pleasure to take down such a beloved film adored by many a cinephile, many a foodie, many a gaijin Japanese enthusiast alike. And
they're called weebs, Mr. Haslar.
As such, the task set before me is a daunting one. Professor Rath is setting the game on hard mode for me, to be sure, but I do feel like I am the most suited to crack open the armor of a 100% fresh Rotten Tomatoes scored film and expose that soft-shelled tortoise beneath. Because out of all of this that we could have been called upon, Maynard, the Toho lover and student of comedy, Ryan, the born-again cinephile, and Dylan, the well-read everyman, I happen to be the perfect amalgam. All of their strengths, none of their weaknesses. And I love food, particularly Japanese cuisine. I love everything from simple, refined elegance of sashimi with just a dab of wasabi and a light dip of well-crafted shoyu, paired with a not-too-dry junmai sake, an absolutely divine combination, to the greasy fried okonomiyaki pancakes with ingredients piled in and washed down with a river of golden beer. So this film is uniquely aimed towards me, more than any we've seen in this court. And this is a discussion worth having, as the film, this self-proclaimed ramen western, and we know it's that because Goro, the main character, wears a cowboy hat, is quite literally food porn. It's a hard R, breast-fixated food porn, unless we forget that the film cannot be distributed with that "no animals were harmed in the making of this picture" text, because there absolutely is senseless counterexamples of that on screen. It's the very film that The Menu tried to warn you about. It popularized the obnoxious kind of foodie before it was even a thing. Its message is to be opulent and indulge, regardless of any kind of crisis of conscience or common sense, or even what your own body is telling you. All of that matters is eating, satisfying your gluttony, but not just any kind of eating, being a parasite of excess. This is not a film that observes the Japanese concept of harahachi-bu, or eating till 80% full, or the Zen concepts of peace through simplicity. This is a film about being an Epicurean snob, that there's only one correct way to prepare any one dish, and discarding opportunity for food evolution or individual flair. But perhaps worst of all, it's 2 full hours of this.
Is this ASMR?
Thank you, Mr. Haslar. That has to be my favorite opening that didn't involve you singing. Representing the defense is Mr. Eric Rath. Please present your opening statement.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Your Honor. I'm just a humble professor. I don't know how to handle myself in court, but I'll do my best.
All right.
It seems to me what I heard was a good argument for seeing the movie. If anybody wants to understand what food porn is all about, well, Tampopo is an example for that. And who doesn't love ramen noodles? Now, this is a movie that introduced ramen. 1985 was when it came out. In the United States, what we knew about ramen back then was from a little packet. It was instant ramen. That was before the ramen boom of the 1990s. We were in the middle of the sushi boom. So it was revelatory at its time. I think it introduced ramen to people and also introduced how deeply steeped food is in Japanese culture, in all sorts of different ways. And of course, the movie was written or came out during the height of Japan's economic power. And so a lot of people were in Japan were experimenting with new foodways, Western foods, wines, Western alcohol. Diet's really changing. People have been dining out for a decade and a half, but the movie points to the fact that some of them are still not used to it. At least Western food, how to handle spaghetti, for example, how to handle refined French meal. So there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek satire in it, but I think also, it's a commentary on the times and about not just the extent of that food permeates Japanese culture, but also on the economic booms of the 1980s. So, I mean, if you love food, you're going to love Tampopo. If you want to know more about Japan and its history and culture, I mean, this is the movie to go to. I couldn't think of any other film that does that. And this is one I often show my students in class.
I bet there's a few scenes they really like.
Oh yeah. I got to worry about my student evaluations, of course. And I do tell them, you can put your head down at certain points if you're a little squeamish. But right. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Rath. Mr. Haslar, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
One of the many first hurdles a film has to overcome is how to properly use vignettes, and it chooses to interject those breaks into its main story. And before you settle in, the main story kind of is around that 20-25 minute mark. So before then, you're kind of confused as to what's going on and what to focus on. The film kind of opens up with this unconnected vignette telling people not to make noise, just about as ineffectually as those AMC ads do. A sentiment I wholeheartedly agree with, by the way, but it's placed in a way where you don't know if it's the film you're watching or if it's just like in front of it, kind of like they do at the Alamo Drafthouse. They'll have like scenes of movies because it's exactly like those scenes that they play before the movie starts. Then as the movie plays on, counting that opening, there are 3 to 4 opening stories that are started and you're only 8 minutes in. You find yourself as a first timer wondering, what am I supposed to be focusing on here? I need my anchoring point. Then that main story comes in around that 20-minute mark. But the movie seems to question very often how invested you are into that main story, or if there's like lulls or junctures, because they just kind of jam segues in sort of a desperate gamble to regain your attention. And I guarantee you'll be forgetting some of those, which was very evident to me on a rewatch. Like half of them just slipped right off my brain. Realizing that they don't go anywhere. There are scenes like a dream about people tasting broth that goes on for too long and could be cut, with detours that are so belabored, like that beggar making omaraisu. Belabored, adds nothing, barely evokes any emotion. It's a Charlie Chaplin homage, I get that, but it's pointless, and it's followed by that long farewell song, which I guarantee every member in this court was checking their phones throughout when they got to watch it at home. Some bits have no resolution, like that lady squishing things in a grocery store or that university professor scam. The tones are conflicting, which I happen to know is a big problem for one of our jurors here. The meandering just makes it feel unfocused. I found myself quoting that Steve Martin in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles when he says to John Candy about his endless parade of anecdotes, "Here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener."
All right, Mr. Rath, would you like to comment on the use of vignettes in this film?
Well, sure. I think it's one of the brilliant aspects of this movie. We do have this through narrative, the story of a woman, a protagonist who wants to try to improve her noodle shop, help out her son, and seeks help doing that. But then there's all these vignettes that appear. And I think, it really points to the multifaceted way that food intersects with Japanese culture in various ways. For example, the scene of the businessman eating French cuisine, people at the time trying to learn how to navigate a very complicated menu, and the businessmen all decide they're going to order the same thing, and yet it's their subordinate who shows them up and demonstrates the proper way of ordering something in a French restaurant. There's so many scenes like that offer us new insights into food. Maybe these are a little bit dated now, with the test of time, but in other ways they're sort of eternal, because food is something that's important to our daily lives. I mean, I'm so glad that I researched food, because it's so immediate and so important. Unlike some battle at some place in the 19th century, I mean, food is something we can all relate to. It's something that becomes us. It's bodily, it's physical. It has to do with gender and sexuality. It touches on so many dimensions. And that's precisely what these vignettes do, is they show the way that food touches on so many aspects of daily life. Even violence is part of this.
So, Ben, are you just not feeling the touch? Is that what this is here?
Well, I think if you asked Rath, he probably could name every single one of them, since he shows it in class. But I think if you were to ask any of your students, can you name every single vignette in this movie? I doubt they'd be able to do it. Some absolutely stick in your memory. The food ordering scene, yeah, absolutely. And a few others that we'll be getting to, but others just don't. But yeah, you touched on the sexuality, so I'll go ahead and move on to that, because this is one of the more uncomfortable exhibits. And this is the food porn and sex sort of exhibit. There's actually an episode of Seinfeld that kept flashing through my brain, where George has to learn that sex is about love between a man and a woman, not love between a man and a sandwich. And not every girl appreciates the romantic qualities of the salted cured meats. Tampopo's first example that jumps into mind is that egg yolk scene, in which a man and a woman attempt to pass a yolk from mouth to mouth while French kissing, and an attempt not to break it. And when the yolk finally breaks, it's symbolic. I feel so bad for these poor actors. I hope they were clued in on just what it was they were auditioning for, because that scene really tries to ride a fine line between absurdity and sensuality, with a fair amount of revulsion kind of tucked into those edges. Do not try the scene at home, folks. You will get salmonella sooner or later. Another scene involves live sea creatures, which may be the origins of hentai technical stuff. We're not sure. We're looking into it. But the most uncomfortable scene is the one involving this oyster girl. Now, I want it made clear that the girl was 19 at the time of filming. But the problem is the film doesn't depict her that way. I firmly believe this is based on her occupation, the clothing, and her general demeanor, that she's meant to be younger than that in the director's head. It's set up as an intentional power imbalance and the taking of innocence. I'll grant you Japanese sexual mores are different than those in the States, so this might be a little bit outside of Reels of Justice jurisdiction a bit, but she approaches this much older man, essentially in a wet t-shirt. She sucks this oyster for him, which is symbolic of her virginity. Whoa. But also, side note, she does so incorrectly with the most grimy knife you've ever seen, so there's revulsion there. These scenes are not accidents. The discomfort is intentional. The problem is the intention doesn't justify its inclusion. Removed from the film, Tampopo's central exploration of obsession and discipline and pleasure remain intact, perhaps even cleaner and clearer than what we get. As they stand, these sexual vignettes feel like commentary on excess and more like an unhealthy revulsion, undermining the philosophical restraint the film otherwise works so hard to achieve. They don't feel like a counterbalance to anything. They're just more like something the director really wanted to include for some reason.
Question from the bench before I kick it over to Mr. Rath. Are you saying these scenes were included to deliberately be repulsive, or most people just happen to find them to be repulsive?
I really don't know, but it doesn't feel like if it were intentional, I feel like there would be a counterbalance that you would be looking for, and I don't see that in this film.
All right, I want to kick this point over to Mr. Rath then. Obviously, these sexual vignettes are going to be a hot button issue, and Mr. Haslar gave us a lot of food for thought, pardon the pun, in that regard. So would you like to respond to those and how they fit into the movie?
Yeah, I think that we can consider food to be a sort of sexuality. That's what I've heard it said before, that food is the new sex. In other words, something that...
Who said that?
It was an author named Will Averill, who lives in Kansas here. Anyway, he identified food as the new sex, and I think it's a way of food can often be a way of approaching sex and handling sexual topic in a way that's not sexual. But I mean, here the director is making it very sexual. It's really rubbing in our faces that this is that food has this sort of dimensions of sexuality. The last scene, for instance, a woman is breastfeeding an infant, and although that could be seen as a very sexual scene, but it also shows you how food is connected with life from the moment that we're born. So I don't think we can deny the importance of sex and food. I mean, it's part of human existence. We wouldn't be around if we didn't eat. We wouldn't be around if our parents hadn't made love or had sex, at least. So it's a fundamental part of existence. And this movie really pushes us to think about that. And maybe it's not always pretty. Maybe it's not always something that we want to see. But it's something that we grapple with. And it's obvious, listening to what I heard, that it causes us to think about it. So I think we don't have to be so prudish about it. We can watch those scenes and enjoy them.
I'll give you the same question I gave Mr. Haslar. Would you say it was the director's intention for this to be like abjection? It was supposed to be repulsive, or is that just how some people would react?
Well, I think it's a commentary on excessiveness. It's this commentary on consumption. And Japan's going through a period of remarkable consumption. I mean, think about the 1960s. It's when Japan's making its initial gains after the Second World War. The GDP is increasing. This is the era of the economic miracle. Lifestyles are changing so dramatically in the 1960s, 1970s. People start going out to eat. And it's almost like people's way of thinking changes. Sociologists have argued this, that Japanese are no longer focused on production, what they can make, but what they consume. It's their identities that they consume by purchasing different things. And this movie really makes that apparent in many different ways. People define themselves as the ramen expert or the ramen disciple. Mm-hmm. Or as someone who's looking out for the next gourmet meal, or trying to learn how to navigate Western cuisine properly and authentically. So it's about consumption in a way, and it's revelatory about what's happening in Japan in the 1980s, and it's also poking fun at it too. People are obsessed with noodles or obsessed with food and sex. And yeah, I think it's on purpose. We're supposed to see that it's not always pretty.
All right. Mr. Haslar, I'll kick it back to you.
Speaking of not always pretty, this film is not PETA approved. There's the aforementioned live shrimp sex scene, but also the use of a real pig head and the murder of a soft-shelled tortoise on screen. I think these scenes are somewhat meant to be uncomfortable. I would agree with you there. But with the overall message of, but you gotta push past that because the humane versions of this animal harvesting might dull the flavor, and you just haven't lived until you've eaten meat that was coursing with life not 1 minute ago. Chase your own pleasures. Be hedonistic in them. Some peasants out there could barely afford their top ramen, but look at me. I'm so well off and refined in my palate that the microscopic amount of difference consuming the flesh that was killed inhumanely for the sake of combating time's ravages to the meat is worth it to me. If you cut the animal torture again, like the sex, it wouldn't hurt the flow of the film at all, and you'd be setting up a better example for future filmmakers and foodies alike.
That turtle had 1 day to retirement.
I think that turtle in the movie died pretty quickly. So I don't think it was tortured at all. It was just had its throat slit. And that's probably the most humane way of doing that.
For the sake of entertainment, though, for our film.
No, they probably consumed the turtle. But I think it's important. It's an important lesson on where your food comes from, because oftentimes we go to a supermarket, we see our meat package. We don't know all about the meat industry that brought that meat to the supermarket. We don't know the fact that one some hamburger that we buy might have meat from thousands of cows in it. We don't realize that sort of thing. So this is a moment that allows us to reflect upon the lives that are lost to provide the food that sustains us. I think that's an important lesson.
All right, Mr. Haslar.
I'll proceed to my last exhibit. Ladies of the gentlemen of the court, I like ramen just as much as the next guy, maybe even more. But isn't this all just a bit much? Like, I like ramen, but damn, this is a lot of ramen. If you contemplate ramen this much, you'll never get to eat. Should I be contemplating clipping my fingernails with the same precision? Does the master align his clippers at a precise 41-degree angle and then contemplate the zen of the decayed fingernail? Hey, dude, you want to get some ramen? Nah, man, I don't have 3 hours to spend contemplating the wabi-sabi of noodle starch. I've got work tomorrow. And what is the point? To be cool, you have to know a French menu backwards and forwards. We have to contemplate ramen for 3 hours, yet we're also supposed to slurp our spaghetti with no cares. So the overall point is to break free of the restrictions and indulge while simultaneously showing some consequences for it, like choking. It's like you don't get food the way that these people pretend to. You might as well just go to a microwave and do a hungry man dinner and eat in front of the TV like a Philistine. This is the kind of movie that inspires those kinds of snobs that will remark, oh, that's not real Chinese food. If a dish was adapted by Chinese immigrants, using the ingredients they now have available to them, it's now somehow invalid as food. And if you get too strict with that line of thought, the only real authentic dish would be fire-roasted mammoth meat. So lay off a little bit, okay? But at the same time, I get what the real epicures are trying to get at. Some dishes are objectively better than others. Some should be stated with a particular vernacular to accurately describe its origins and contents. But so many of us don't understand and will watch a film like this and become like one of those quote unquote foodies who only virtue signal to sound and educated and cool and honestly just unjustly snobbish. We're setting a bad example here. If you pretend to be like the master dissecting his ramen like Ken Watanabe here, you'll just become insufferable to be around. Chase what you like. Find the foods and drinks that you enjoy. Develop your palate, investigating deeper in what you enjoy, but don't pretend that your way is the only way to prepare and enjoy a dish. And on that, the prosecution will rest.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Haslar. Mr. Rath, the prosecution has rested. You may now present any exhibits you have in defense of Tampopo.
Thank you. I think that it's important to realize that when we have new foodstuff, and ramen, I would argue in the 1980s to people watching this movie from outside of Japan, was something that's new. We think about the 1980s, we think about sushi, and a lot of people are learning about sushi at the time. Sushi is a yuppie food. People who are writing about sushi in the 1980s always have to mystify it somehow. You know, it's a special sort of language you have to learn, special sort of etiquette you have to learn to deal with the sushi chef. And that's part of the mystique of sushi in the 1980s for Americans, is sort of a mystic side of it. That's why, even to this day, Japanese food has a cachet that a lot of other cuisines lack. But what does Tampopo do? Tampopo demystifies ramen for us. Yeah, I mean, it makes it a aspect of sort of master disciple culture on the one hand, but on the other hand, it demystifies it for us. We learn how to eat ramen. We learn how to lift the bowl, how to appreciate the different aspects of it, become familiar with what ramen is. And so I think, it's a good learning tool in that regard. I'm sure a lot of people saw that movie and wanted to try ramen. And think about another movie that came out in 1985, and that was The Breakfast Club, that introduced sushi to people. And we have the Molly
breakfast.
Molly Ringwald's character, what does she do? She is in detention, and rather than bringing a sack lunch, she opens up a beautiful lacquer box of sushi. And I think it's Judd Hirsch who says, what is that? And she says, oh, it's sushi, rice, fish. And he makes a comment about it. Well, you'll eat that, but you won't put a boy's tongue in your mouth. But a lot of, people are introduced to sushi that way. And I mean, I for one saw that movie in high school and wanted to try sushi. And so I think this movie Tampopo does the same thing. It demystifies ramen on the one hand, but it also makes room for Michelin-starred ramen restaurants on the other hand. So ramen, we've come to learn, can be vast and wide, and be a working man's lunch, but it can also be a starred Michelin cuisine in Japan, at least. So I'm really grateful for this.
It was for snobs, and now we have Eric Rath saying it's demystifying it. So is it demystifying it? Maybe you were being a little too harsh.
I think that might be an unintentional byproduct of the film. I think that this film was made by Japanese people for a Japanese audience. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that it was meant to go to international audiences as like sort of the, hey, try Japanese film or food, because if they did, they'd be hitting okonomiyaki or yakitori or these other things a bit more heavy-handedly than they do. I think it is meant to like set up the way for the, those kind of sushi restaurants that only serve 4 people a day, and the guy like spends 5 hours like feeling the muscle texture of the fish, and like only this is the correct fish to serve to his audiences. I would say that it's more that, but I'm open to the jury saying that I'm wrong.
If I can rebut that, I mean, it makes this case about ramen. And ramen is like the quintessential working class food in Japan. I mean, now, okay, you do have Michelin-starred ramen restaurants, but in the 1950s, ramen is the food that people are eating, in the bombed out areas of Tokyo. If they're not eating ramen, they're eating sparrows. They're eating something, like animal organs. I mean, just it's like the lowest of lowest class foods. And yet here we have this movie that's glorifying it, that's romanticizing it, that makes way for a whole like ramen culture. So to this day, we have this ramen museum in Yokohama where you can go back to the glorious days of the post-war in the 1950s and walk around dark alleys and eat ramen like people once did, in the black markets. So I think that's part of the fun of this, is that it's not picked up kaiseki cuisine. It's not picked up the cuisine of the tea ceremony. It's picked up the quintessential working man's food, and then made this whole cultural expression about it.
All right, Mr. Rath, if you'd like to make another exhibit.
No, I think that's fine. I think like I'll rest my case for the time being.
All right, no problem. Don't worry. You get your closing.
He's going to start it again.
Right after Big Ben sings for us. All sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Haslar, you may begin.
No songs today, Your Honor. I'm ashamed to say.
Really phoning this one in.
Really phoning it in.
You can't think of a song about ramen? That's unfortunate.
Tampopo, or should it be Tanpopo, T-A-N? Because as I understand katakana, it's supposed to be T-A-N, but I'm not a native speaker, so what do I know? Tampopo is a movie that film critics treat like one of these bowls of ramen that you're supposed to like, because it's how highly informed watchers like it. And if you want to appear to be well-educated and have a good food palate for film, you'll pretend the emperor has that sparkly new robe on, and you'll say that you enjoyed it too. But how? How can we trust a movie about becoming the best there is that doesn't even supply us with a ramen making montage? By Rocky rules, this must be found guilty.
Interesting precedent there.
I completely agree with that point.
All right, order in the court, please. Order in the court. Mr. Rath, please present your closing statement.
Yes, if it may please the judge and jury.
Yes.
I think this movie has something for everybody. Really, you have a narrative of a protagonist trying to make the best ramen she can, trying to, not become famous, but to do the best job that she can. And that's a story that people can relate to. We understand her struggles. We get behind her. We want to see her succeed. And then along the way, there's all these different vignettes that showcase food in many different surprising ways, that take us down different angles. 1 minute we're with a Japanese mobster, and another minute someone's getting their tooth extracted. So it's a lively film. It's a film that comments about Japanese society in a very profound way, that shows us how deeply embedded Japanese food is in Japanese culture. It paves the way for a ramen renaissance in Japan. It paves the way for the internationalization of ramen. So this movie has so much to offer. It's a movie that's withstood the test of time. I rest my case.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very well said. Very well spoken. Members of the jury. Oh, you were too, Ben. I've got all sorts of...
I'm just a humble professor. Give me a break,
Yeah, exactly, right? You have to talk
David,
in front of
please
people all
record.
the time. All right. Where was I? Yes, members of the jury. That would be Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. The Broth is the Soul of Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way? When do we get to watch a normal movie made the normal way?
Never do. Poor bailiff.
Okay, gentlemen, we are here to discuss Tampopo, a motion picture that I believe is a gentleman's 9.
Wow.
It might sound insane.
It does.
But
I can't wait to hear what lost it to 1.
The turtle.
Oh, that turtle! That turtle was sick, man.
That poor turtle is so bad. But
I don't know how you
the thing that
normally
stuck with me the most is that I just remembered that snowballing scene with the egg yolk, which I'd never seen in any cinema before, and it disgusted me.
For good
but at
reason.
the same time, I was
come
like,
up a lot.
how the hell did this happen? How the hell did they let Juzo Itami put this in a movie? But I'm kind of glad he did, because it feels like he's getting away with something. And to kind of disagree with Ben, I think this movie is all about savoring the small details. It's about why it's not so bad to be an amateur as opposed to a professional. It's definitely not a straight narrative story. That much is certain. I definitely agree with that. But I look at it more as an omnibus, like it's a collection of short films with one narrative strung all the way through it. It's kind of like the Kentucky Fried Movie, but for Japanese food. And
it's like 21 short films about Springfield, or whatever the movie that's based on.
22 short films about Glenn Gould. But yes.
Piano player?
Rob, you've said the least during this case, so I want to hear from you. What do you think?
Well, it wasn't my case. I wasn't allowed to talk. I tried. I do agree some of the animal stuff is sad, but I don't think it's not like an animal cruelty thing where...
it's not a cannibal holocaust.
Right. It's not even as cruel, I think, as like gluing some of those horns onto the lizards for the old dinosaur movies and making them fight. Like there's some not, in this case, I do hope the turtle was eaten after, but like, if that's just what they do to turtles when they eat them, then we're just we're documenting that as part of our movie, I guess, I hopefully they did it in one take and there isn't a pile of dead turtles somewhere. Sorry, Jerry, you gotta take it again. Take 47, get me another turtle.
Oh God.
The shucking oyster one, I did think she looked a little young, but Ben did tell me she's 19. I don't know that we can say how old she's supposed to be. I don't know if that job is usually a kid's job, if the kids are just running around collecting oysters and
regardless of age, though, I'm going to agree with Ben. The symbolism is very heavy in the power imbalance and her giving up it's really wallops you over the head. So it's her.
She seemed to like the man eating her oyster, though. So I'm just saying.
It
was consensual oyster.
Exactly. She's old enough to consent to him eating her oyster. I don't have any problem with that.
I don't
it's
know.
her oyster, and she can decide who eats it.
Well, then it's not a power imbalance, though, and that's clearly what they were going for.
You know what? That never came in at all. It didn't. Actually, I didn't. I don't want to get too far afield on that dynamic. I picked up on none of that. To me, he was the naive fool who did not know how to eat the oyster.
He's a mobster.
So he doesn't know. That doesn't mean he knows how to eat oyster. And
No,
she
but
was the knowledgeable expert who
No.
opened the oyster and showed him how to do it. So
I
if there
actually
was
agree with
power,
that even makes it worse.
if there was
that's-
power in the relationship, I felt she was more powerful because he knew nothing about what he was supposed to do in the oyster eating situation, and she basically like took his hand and showed him what to do. Ryan,
Oh,
you
that's
were saying?
even
I
worse.
said
like
I
oyster?
actually agree with your point.
Wow, I must be right if Ryan agreed with me.
No,
But that
terrible.
didn't bug me. I do agree the lack of montage, or at least that actually did bug me. Not so much necessarily a montage, but of her, how she improves. Like she seems to eat a lot of ramen, but she steals someone's broth recipe, but eventually they bring in then the hobo guy ultimately make the correct broth for her. And then I think she had to did try to get the noodle recipe from somebody else, but like, you know, she's kind of taking a bunch of other people's elements to like make her super best ramen. And
Well, that's
I
how you
never,
make a stew.
I guess, but I never got to the point of like what made her better. Like she just
Yeah,
at
like
the
when
end
did
of the
she
movie,
round the corner? Is
right?
what you mean? Yeah.
Right. When does she turn? Like, you know, this movie
She
didn't
gets
make
3 minutes.
me any better at making ramen. Like I don't. So, but I wasn't bored, which was I was pretty surprised by, considering it's just kind of a movie about noodle soup. I was interested in her getting better. I was invested in her. I was invested in the cowboy. I even liked the rude fellow who starts fights, but then likes to remodel the place, which is a good business model. Go in, trash a place, and then get them to pay you to remodel it. I think that works. Yeah. What does Schlenzo think?
Well, I want to say I really enjoyed this case because it really focused on the ideas and what the movie was trying to say, which I really appreciate. And that's always my favorite thing to talk about. And I could definitely tell that Ben loaded a few bullets of that gun that had my name on it and shot right at my head. So I like the professors contextualizing it as like, look, this is like 85, 84 Japan.
And that was
culture's
Eric. Eric was the
changing.
professor.
Yeah, he's the
Okay,
professor.
I just want to check.
He's been referring to himself as the professor.
I
We have
could
several
been
professors
Myself as
on this.
Oh, humble professor. Thank
The
you.
humble professor. Of
Sometimes
course.
Ben's
Yeah.
professor. You never know.
Anyway, he's Big Ben, humble professor. They team up. Anywho, so I like that idea of contextualizing it in Japan and like how the relationship with food and consumption is changing. I think Ben did a good job of addressing a few of those points in pointing out how like this kind of conspicuous consumption is just not really healthy and it's not something we should idolize. And we didn't really get a strong answer from either lawyer of whether this is something that we were supposed to find disgusting. Like what were we supposed to feel coming out of it, right? And so ultimately, as a jury, I guess we get to decide how our feelings affect that. And I lean
Hungry,
more
I guess.
towards what was that?
Hungry, I think is how.
Oh God, yeah, definitely made me. Well, some things made me hungry. Some things made me quite disgusted, as we've already talked about. But I do think those extra vignettes, I do think they hurt the main story. But again, if the point of the movie is to be this weird intersection of food and life and consumption, I suppose they have a better argument for being in the movie, as distasteful as I find them. And I do think you could have afforded to trim a few and not lose the main point. It's that classic example we always say in this courtroom, you know, if you pour a cup of wine into a barrel of sludge, you have a barrel of sludge. If you pour a cup of sludge into a barrel of wine, you have a barrel of sludge, you see? So I feel those scenes were the poison pill. You know, I just think you can have too much and it can get the whole movie down, to be honest with you.
Can I push back? Because I like
No, you can't. I'm sorry.
going to. I like the little vignettes because they remind me of like how when you eat a bowl of ramen soup, the noodles and the meat are the main deal, but you've always got like the little onion and you've got the little Naruto you can save on the side and you got the egg. So you always have these little extra things floating around that aren't necessarily related to the main course, but they spice up the whole bowl. That's kind of like what I thought the vignettes were. They're like the little egg popping in. And it's like, oh, it's just a little, bean sprout here that, we're filling up the soup. We're just making it diverse and heterogeneous.
I don't like that idea because part of the idea of the ramen is all that stuff comes with it anyway, right? It's about a marriage
You
of
have to
making it all
you
better.
have to pay for some of those extras in ramen.
Yeah, but it's all about making it better, though. You're not paid to get a spoiled egg in your ramen. That's what I'm saying.
Wait,
like,
you think that they're a spoiled egg? I
yes,
got an egg that I
because
generally liked. I liked the snowballing yolk
discussed.
thing
No, I knew you would.
until she let
No, I
it
knew
go
you
all
would.
over her dress, and I'm like, "Come on,
No.
girl, you're gonna have to change now."
No.
Also, the fact that
look, I know
separated the egg. Right, he separated the egg with his hands and then didn't wash his hands after. He just got into making out. Didn't like that. Wash your hands, dude.
Yeah, no, I thought. See, you're coming around on the right side of things about how gross.
No,
it was.
I don't like touching food. Don't touch food. And touch food.
Well, there you go. That's literally everything. So, I feel pretty good. I like I said, I was really impressed with both lawyers. I'm really glad they talked about what was important about this movie, and I just don't see. And I love Ben's closing statement, like this movie, the way it's being treated is like how they were treating the ramen, right? It's like, oh, no, you have to like it. This movie's so good, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, a gentleman's 9. It's none of those things. It is none of those things. I am happy we brought it down a peg. I think I know where you guys are going, but I'm going to do the right thing and vote guilty.
Rob?
Man doesn't like soup. You heard it? He doesn't like soup, says to your face. As far as the 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, that's like 100% of the people that saw it liked it, right? It's not like they think the movie's 100%.
Critics' reviews, I believe, is what's at 100%.
Yeah, it's just that everyone who saw it liked it. Maybe they didn't love it, but they at least liked it, I think is how it goes. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I can definitely see why it's gotten the reception it did. It is very well made, too. I thought it was very well performed. I thought it kept moving at a good clip. I only checked my watch a couple of times, and so I thought it was pretty well made. It may not. I can't see that I'll ever necessarily watch it again. It's not my kind of movie. Weren't that many robots, but there was a cowboy, which is not bad. So I'm gonna go not guilty. And we don't know how Ryan's gonna go, but let's find out. Maybe he'll swerve us.
I have watched this film twice in my life, and each time I had a heavy meal beforehand, and I still left very, very, very hungry. But I remember when I had to prosecute Xanadu, which absolutely broke my heart. And the fact that I made salient cases and nobody supported me, well, that broke my heart even further. So I know how hard it is for Ben to prosecute a movie that I know he genuinely enjoys, but he did such a good job of tearing it down that I'm gonna have to go guilty.
He doesn't want you to, by the way, but okay, go ahead. He doesn't want to in this case because he likes the movie, but go ahead.
Oh, no way, really? All right.
Let's go tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Tampopo, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
Boo! Stop sucking all those noodles. The verdict is so rendered. Tampopo is to be immediately remade for American sensibilities, starring Jack Black, Jeremy Renner, and Sandra Bullock saving a burger food truck with a cameo from Anthony Hopkins. Court is adjourned.
Guys are monsters. I gotta be some sort of...
Be the turtle that lived.
That's all I can think of now.
I think if we ate turtles, we'd have more of appreciation for that.
Probably.
Just saying. But in Japan, they're gourmet. So
there's no meat I won't try, though. I mean, if I have to stab 1,000 turtles to get it right, I'll do it.
This is Tommy, the turtle that lived. It's been a hard life, but I was take number 68, and luckily they got it right on the 67th, which was my brother. But it was an honor to be part of this movie, which was guilty. Big Ben Haslar, what did you think of the jury's verdict in there? You can't agree with that, right?
No, I wanted this movie off the hook. I just wanted my case to be accurate but entertaining. Professor Rath did such a good job. Justice was not served today, and I will be appealing this come the appeal season.
I think you're not allowed to appeal it if you're the guy who prosecutes.
No, I
don't
can't
know.
take the same stance.
I have to look at the rules, which I can't read because I'm a turtle. Well, thank you.
You're a turtle, but you know all the rules?
No. Well, someone has to explain the rules to me. I'm not talking to you, whoever you are. I'm just a turtle who barely got out of here without his throat slit. Humble Professor Eric Rath, come on in here. You're my favorite sin. And let us know, what did you think of the jury's verdict in there? It was some bullshit, right?
Yeah, I can't quite grasp my head around it. What the justice, it was a travesty of justice, I guess is the expression.
Happens a lot around here.
I would think so. Notwithstanding the turtle, this is a fine film, and I kind of feel like I do sometimes when I show this to a class and I get that expression, like I'm looking at a fish tank when I look at some of my students. They're just like blub, 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 blub. Like maybe they weren't even in the room when they saw it. They were off in some sort of mental la-la land, and I feel like it's the same thing that happened today. Maybe I didn't make the case for it as well as I should have. I thought the movie would stand on its own merits, but I guess not. This was a hard case to argue. Because the prosecution was so talented. I guess I've learned my lesson. I'll have to prepare better next time.
If you want to know a guy who could slit his throat real quick, real clean, get done over with. He won't feel a thing. Is the point of the story. Anyway, that's all the time we have from outside the Reels of Justice. I'm Tommy the Turtle, who lived, and I don't know where I'm from. I'm from Jersey or Brooklyn or something. I don't know why.
You gotta be from Japan, right? Or you at least got shipped.
No, the turtles aren't raised in Japan. The Japanese don't like to eat the Japanese turtles. No, they have them imported from the States.
No. They eat the turtles. If there's a very famous turtle restaurant in Kyoto, and if you take the Shinkansen from Tokyo to Kyoto, you pass by the turtle farm, as a matter of fact. So.
Well, it does not really help the whole accent I've been putting on this whole time, but thank you very much, Eric.
Hey, well,
let's get back to the studio for post-trial
transplanted
analysis.
turtle, I guess.
Transplanted turtle.
The deracinated turtles all over the place. What are you gonna do? Man,
we're gonna hold this over Ryan's head forever, no matter.
Eric, these guys just love to torture me. They know whatever I really want, and they just go the other way. You did such a great job.
I went not guilty.
You were okay.
I'm all right.
I don't know.
Even when I win, I lose.
I had the same thing happen with Titan AE, so like it's an occupational hazard. But anyway,
no, I've actually recommended this movie on the show before, and any listeners out there, this is definitely one to check out. It's excellent.
Yeah, don't listen to Ryan. He's just
my guilty was sincere. I don't necessarily think this is worth
he's
watching.
Mad about Xanadu, but this is not the way to
I can understand not everybody liking it. I'm not way to get justice. I was hoping to win one over.
Anyway, we'll get Ben to appeals it, but he's gonna have to do a silly voice the whole time. But humble Professor Eric Rath, what is it that keeps you busy when you're not here? What are you usually doing?
I'm usually researching about Japanese food. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 plus years. And it keeps me busy because there's a lot to learn about Japanese food.
Mm-hmm. What's the number one most interesting fact about Japanese food? Go.
The stories that people tell about it. A lot of them are just made up, but the stories are really interesting. So, for example, anybody had natto?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you go to Japan, people ask you, do you like natto? Natto is, for people who don't know, it's for fermented soybeans, right? But it's kind of it's a bit gluey. It can have a very strong smell, kind of like a French cheese, or a foot. So not everybody likes it. Not even every Japanese person likes it. But it's one of those things that's sort of a litmus test. Do you really like Japanese food? Well, do you like natto?
I thought you said NATO. Sorry, I was confused.
No. That's a separate discussion. So where did natto come from? Well, one story is that this very famous warlord, and that could be Minamoto no Yoritomo, the first shogun, actually one of the first shoguns, or a great warlord of the 16th century, Uesugi Kenshin, invented natto because they put a lot of cooked soybeans into their backpack, and they were riding around fighting all day long, and they open it up and voila, you could natto from that. So of course that's false. It didn't happen that way, but it's an example of one of those stories that people tell about Japanese food and its origins.
And speaking of, like, you in your you have a new book about Kanpai, the history of sake. You take aim at like the origins of sake, which is like pretty widely accepted that like kind of people would chew the rice and like kind of spit that into jugs. And you seem to have issue with that.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but a lot of times people like to talk about it because it's just so gross. Using saliva as a starter for fermentation. I mean, it happens all around the world, happened a lot in South America, for example. A lot of examples of alcoholic beverages there that people first chew them and then they spit. And there's amylase in our saliva, and that breaks down the starch into sugars, makes them available for fermentation. Well, oftentimes that's posited as the origin of sake in Japan. And it could be, but that rests on one historical reference from the 8th century, which is kind of questionable. And what's really freaky is people make all this stuff up about that reference. They say, oh, it's not just a village.
Special virgins and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's virgins that are doing it.
Oh, it's virgin spit? Oh, I was going to say, this is gross. You didn't tell me.
That's the thing. It sexualizes it and makes it more interesting and titillating to people. Like, oh, yeah.
No, I like that. Like you're just like looking at like a true historian's perspective. Like, what do we know? Like, do we know that or do we not know that? We can't.
There's a lot of it we just don't know. But because a lot of people don't know a lot, they made up a lot of shit. That's one of the things. They made up a lot of stuff about sake's history. Just because they assumed people assumed people got drunk in prehistoric times. So how did they do it? When in fact,
there's no TV.
Yeah. So things like that. Yeah, I like those sort of stories.
Now, Ben mentioned you have a new book, which precludes you having an original book. So do you want to tell us about a couple of your books?
Sure. My first book about Japanese cuisine is called Food and Fantasy. And that looks at how really cuisine is more than just food. George Carlin, famous comedian, said, what's the difference between food and cuisine? $60, and that's kind of like what's going on in Japanese cuisine. It's the discourse, people talking about the food, that makes it so special. Food as a sort of expression of ritual and symbolic values of food. Anyway, that book looks at that in the medieval period and early modern period, looks at sweets, looks at the arrival of what the Japanese called barbarian foods, the foods from Spain and Portugal, and how those became dishes like tempura. Then I wrote a book about called Japan's Cuisines that looks at the various cuisines in Japan, from the tea ceremony to local cuisine. And I've written Oishii, the History of Sushi. And my most recent book on Japanese food is Kanpai, the History of Sake, published by Reaction Books.
Cool. Where's the?
Go pick those up, folks.
All right. The question we ask everyone about sake: do you prefer warm sake or cold sake?
It depends on the sake, really.
It does.
In the season,
if you have something that's more table sake, then I think heating it up is nice. But that's the amazing thing about sake is you can have it at different temperatures and appreciate it at different temperatures. And what other alcoholic beverage can you do that with? You can't warm up beer.
You shouldn't.
That just wouldn't be good.
Oh, come on. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Maybe a hot toddy, but you're right. It doesn't have the versatility sake does.
No. The flavor profile of a hot toddy is very narrow compared to what
exactly. It's just the one thing.
Can do. Yeah. So that's what I encourage people to do is just try it at different temperatures and see what you like.
Have we tried to heat up wine and see if it gets better?
Mulled wine does get better. That wine does.
But you gotta add stuff to it. It's not like, it's not like sake, which is just its own thing, right? You can.
Right. Anyway, I love that book. I love that you had like those ancient recipes in there, and that like kind of old idiot's guide to brewing sake, which was kind of fun to learn that those yellow books didn't create that. So
I'm all for doing it yourself, whether it's sake or sushi. So my sushi book has recipes for sushi you could make in places like Kansas. What's around, what can you use? And so I used a lot of gathered foods for some sushi recipes because I want to demystify both sake and sushi and make them more approachable for people. So
I
couldn't get fresh tuna, so I used ground hamburger. I couldn't get rice, so I used a hamburger bun.
People were using beef in early 20th century Japan. They were making the first sushi recipe collection has one for beef sushi. I mean, you wouldn't think of it, but yeah, people did that kind of thing.
So would the beef be raw too? Is it kind of like beef tartare?
No. You cook it, and you add pepper, as I remember. It's a sushi roll.
All right. I mean, absolutely, it sounds delicious.
This was like written by the grandson of the guy who is often credited with inventing, hand rolled nigiri sushi. So I mean, this is not some.
And we still do that.
Who's writing about sushi? This is a guy who knew his stuff, and he's making beef sushi.
It makes me want to eat sushi and learn more about it. So
I think beef sushi's a good hit.
Only there were a book.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of varieties we just don't even have in the United States. Fermented sushi. Yeah. Just blow your mind.
Even if I go to the conveyor belt place?
No way. I mean, because these like fermented sushis, depending on how they're prepared, it tastes like summer sausage or prosciutto. It's amazing.
Oh man, you got me sold, guys. We're going to Japan. This is gonna be sweet.
You gotta go.
All right, but only to see professional wrestling as well.
And eat sushi.
And go to Disneyland.
And ramen.
It's going to be a busy week.
Yeah, we'll be very busy.
Also, I want to take that train that goes around the whole country. That's the thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a ride.
No, for that we would have to go to Disneyland, which is where we're going.
All right.
I got a tiny
got the whole itinerary. Professor, you're coming with us to translate.
I hope somebody's kissing an egg into my mouth.
I'll show you what to eat and not to eat, too.
Is it going to be the egg?
That's also an important part of it. What not to eat. I like that.
Yeah.
And a very fancy omelet. Now, we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So, Eric, what is a movie you think people should see?
Oh, wow. I would suggest if you're going to look at Tampopo, for example, you want to go back and you see the rest of Itami Juzo's movies because he's just, brilliant. No. He didn't do a lot of them, but
could you name your favorite one that hopefully is one Ryan's about to recommend?
Yeah.
Taxing Woman.
Nope.
The Funeral.
Yep.
Wait, don't steal all of them from Brian. So what was it was Taxi Woman?
Taxing Woman.
Taxing. I thought she drove a taxi because that'd be kind of fun.
Isn't that redundant, fellas?
No.
Jeez, no, you're out. Where's that turtle killer? So what do you like about Taxing Woman?
Has the same actors as Tampopo. The female protagonist, for example, she's in that film. It's again another satire on society, people who are cheating on their taxes, and this rugged tax official.
Oh, she's a taxing woman because she's
right. By
the tax man.
Miyamoto Nobuko, who was married to Itami Juzo. She goes after these individuals, and it's very clever in what they're trying to do to escape paying taxes and what she does to catch them. So I don't want to give the movie away, but it's a really great
that
film.
Sounds cool. Yeah,
that
does a lot of turtles in that one too. Unfortunately,
we can only
no turtles were harmed in that movie. I think.
Hey, all right.
We'll see.
You had to think about it. You had to add that.
Well, who knows what they did at catering? Big Ben, what have you got for us?
Disregard my false bravadoism in court today. Tampopo is great and unjustly found guilty when I previously recommended. Another Japanese food film that I think a lot about is 2022's The Zen Diary. It was streaming on JFF Theater once upon a time, which is a great place to see some Japanese films that don't tend to make it over this way on our streaming services or even our physical medias. The Zen Diary is another film that exemplifies that nobody makes a food film like Japan. The film is about an aging man living in the mountains, cooks food with what he grows and finds in the hills. I really love the line that he just kind of looks to nature and lets that decide what he should eat for the day. Framed throughout the progression of the seasons and different foods that would be available to him through foraging, while also focusing on this man nearing the end of his life, who himself has seen many a season and people come and go. Living mostly a solitary life myself and loving food, I could identify with the comfort he finds in friendship, but also how some of those are only for a season, as other relationships take over and grab their attention. It treats food in a similar way by enjoying and finding the value in what's naturally available to you rather than artificially prolonging or obtaining them. Yet the film admits this can't be a hard and fast rule ever, as this man clings to the ashes of his dead wife. The Zen Diary is filled with many profound little moments for contemplation. The shots of the dishes and the natural landscapes are so beautiful and stunning, and I would absolutely love to spend a year with this man learning his philosophies on food and harmony.
And you make a new friend. Everyone ends up happy. That'd be great.
What about our judge, Mr. Schlender?
Well, I didn't know. Maybe Eric, have you seen that movie?
No, I'm not familiar with it. Sounds good though.
The Zen Diary. But no, everyone will have to check that one out. Schlenzo, what have you got for us?
Well, in what may be considered poor taste, I'm recommending Midway from 2019. Yes, who would recommend a Roland Emmerich movie in this economy? For those of you who don't know, the Battle of Midway was not just a sweet arcade game, it was a monumental Navy battle in the Pacific Theater during World War II. There were bombers, planes, destroyers, aircraft carriers, subs, you name it. Ultimately, Midway would be seen as an unforced error by Admiral Yamamoto, who was also the architect behind the Pearl Harbor attacks, and the feeling of catharsis the good guys get at winning this battle is palpable on the screen. Unfortunately, as splendid as it is to see evil get exploded, it is not so splendid to see the rapidly aging CGI. The movie hurts to watch at some points, despite admirable efforts from pop star actors Nick Jonas and Mandy Moore. While leagues better than Pearl Harbor, I'm afraid this one is going to slowly sink in esteem as the years continue to ravage it. Still, it's nice to see the Pacific Theater get its due, and if you have the opportunity to thank a World War II vet, take it. They're dying out rapidly, and when they're gone, they are gone. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. Support your local library.
You love Pearl Harbor. I mean, mostly the love stuff.
Mostly the love stuff, yes. Well, I can't say no to Ben Affleck.
I know. And Cuba Gooding. Come on, Cuba.
He's not part of the love triangle.
Well, you don't know that. Not every scene made it in the movie.
Yeah. Oh my God.
My recommendation today is a sequel to a prior recommendation of mine, the trailer of which was brought to my attention by the one and only Ryan Luis Rodriguez. It's 2025's Sisu: Road to Revenge. Set in Finland in 1946, after the war, a legendary Finnish army commando is determined to relocate his dismantled family home out of Soviet-controlled territory. In the first installment released in 2022, Sisu, which is not the protagonist's name, it's a Finnish word meaning grit and determination. But I call him Sisu because his name is Finnish, and thus it's hard to say. And also, it's kind of like how everyone calls Bruce Willis's character in Die Hard, rather than whatever his name is, John or something. But everyone just calls him Die Hard, so it's like that. Anyway, in 2022, Sisu had to kill Nazis who were after his precious gold. But now he's killing commies, led by Stephen Lang. And this time, it's personal, because the commies killed his family, who he probably valued just as much as gold, if not more. Now, we all know 2025 was a pretty lame year for film. So lucky for us that this was released back in late November stateside, as I now have a viable contender for my favorite movie of 2025. It did basically everything I wanted to do, and maybe the closest thing we have to Mad Max Fury Road since, well, Mad Max Fury Road. The vehicular action sequences are top-notch, and while the entire film doesn't center around those scenes, it does make up a good chunk of the runtime, also leaving some opportunities for Sisu to have a big fight on a train and even drive a freaking tank. My only complaint is that it wasn't released during the summer, because this would have been a hell of a film to catch at the drive-in. If you want to check it out, Sisu: Road to Revenge is currently available for rent or purchase at all the usual suspects. I don't know who releases it. Where would this maybe be streaming, Ryan?
Good question. Probably Amazon Prime or
That
Hulu.
sounds-
Because
that's probably
Sisu 1 is on Hulu, so maybe Hulu's right.
Probably.
That trailer did look awesome, though. I haven't seen it.
It was good. But I think the movie's even better than the trailer because
It's better than F1.
It's was that 2025? But the short answer, yes, though, yes.
Well, because when you said the driving, I was just
Matter?
thinking, like, that would have been sweet to see that with F1. That would have been a hell of a
Yeah, but now picture him driving a big truck and slamming into commies on motorcycles, and they're jumping all over his truck.
I'm sold.
No,
I'm
it's everything that you want. So it was excellent. Good job, Ryan, in pointing it out to me. And speaking of Ryan, he's going to send us on home with his completely normal recommendation. Ryan?
Yeah, this is going to shock everyone, but my Hecko recommendation this week actually concerns the movies we just debated about. Juzo Itami's directorial debut, made just before the production of Tampopo, 1984's The Funeral. It concerns a family dealing with the death of their patriarch in different ways. Some are emotionally closed off, some are having borderline explicit sex in the woods. We all grieve uniquely. The Funeral, which is not strictly a comedy, is definitely funnier than most movies made today in the post-theatrical comedy landscape, and features a great scene where the family learns how to grieve properly through an instructional video. And all I can say is, when I die, which is coming any day now, I'm not making it to 50, my immediate family will have to watch an instructional video, which I will produce ahead of time. When I will do that, I don't know, but all I gotta say is, #goals. The film must be a favorite of Wes Anderson with its square, symmetrical compositions, and like Tampopo, it's basically an omnibus except connected to one singular family. And as someone who has been pondering mortality with increasing regularity lately, it always knocks me on my ass. The Funeral is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel.
You're going to make it a 90, Ryan. We're going to hook you up to machines and everything.
You got to star in Deadpool movies till then.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, God doesn't want you. You'll just talk about movies that he hasn't seen the whole time. He won't get it. He'll be so confused. But with that, we are all out of show. We want to thank our guest, the humble Professor Eric Rath, for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, in great humility.
I also am very humble, so I appreciate you being it as well.
Well, I'm an amalgam, so, I balance us all out.
And we're going to have you back for, I hope, another noodle movie. I don't know any, but let's try to find one. And we hope everyone will join us again as well as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Xanadu.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.